Hey everyone, and welcome back to the Nerdy Multiverse. A very long time ago, 7 years to be exact, we saw what we all thought would be the very last of Netflix's Marvel television show, Daredevil, after 3 amazing seasons. Truly a series that gave fans an incredible outlook on what the character of Daredevil is really like. Likely still standing as the best series Marvel has ever produced to a large number of fans, with the gritty and dark aspects thrown all around the show, and the amazing acting performances within the series. It was almost impossible to give us something like that again. But fans spoke out, worked hard, and pushed for the return of Daredevil, even to the point of getting a billboard in New York City to save Daredevil. And throughout these past couple of years now, they have brought Charlie Cox back as Daredevil and sprinkled him in a few other projects, such as No Way Home, where he only served as Matt Murdock, She-Hulk, where he wore his iconic yellow suit, as well as the Echo series. With all of these other characters getting shows of their own, it was only a matter of time before Daredevil was able to return with a new one of his own as well. Just this time solidified in the actual MCU. And finally, Disney's Marvel has finally delivered with Daredevil Born Again, giving a brand new story for Charlie Cox's Daredevil and introducing new characters, while also keeping all of that original sauce the original had. And now the new series has premiered on Disney Plus, with not just 1, but 2 episodes to start us off. There are a ton of questions regarding this show, however. Will it be anywhere near as good as its Netflix counterpart? Will Disney allow those dark and gritty aspects that we saw in the original? And how will it stand up to all of the other Disney Plus Marvel shows we have gotten so far? And seeing that it is on Disney Plus, just as Marvel's other recent series, it also brought a concern. If it could be as quote-unquote bad or questionable as some of the other shows that have come out. Well, after sitting down and watching the double episode premiere, I am so excited to answer all of those questions and really talk about how this may just be Marvel's greatest, boldest, and most emotional television premiere to date. So, just to start off with a very short answer to this video's title, is Daredevil Born Again the MCU's greatest television premiere yet? And in short, that answer is yes, at least in my opinion. Let me explain a bit further and in more detail, and tell you what I liked and did not like about this 2-episode premiere, and why I also think that this is the boldest and most emotional premiere they have ever given us as well. And in order to recap these 2 episodes briefly and explain in more detail why this premiere is so good, this video will obviously contain spoilers, so beware. Let's begin by delving into the first of the 2 episodes, which is titled Heaven's Half Hour. This episode opens up with that happy reunion sort of vibe, also filled with nostalgia, where we see the return of so many characters and things from the original series, such as Karen and Foggy, as well as Josie's bar. But you know, with all of those rumors and the speculation that went around, this was not meant to last. And that is where we also get the return of Wilson Bethel's Bullseye, donning a brand new costume that is very much comic book inspired. He ends up hunting Foggy down and forcing Matt to turn back into Daredevil once more, as he swings building from building something we actually did not really get to see in the original Netflix series, which is a very fine addition, as it feels very comic booky. But with all of that being said, this is the boldest premiere because of the devastating major decision that they decided to make in the first 10 minutes of the first episode. And that is killing Foggy Nelson off straight away. Matt's best friend and partner in crime gone, just like that. Ultimately, it will begin this spiral of changes, causing Daredevil to lash out and try to literally kill Bullseye by throwing him off of the building's roof, something Daredevil would normally never do. Now, this decision might end up being controversial, but in the end, it brings out an incredible performance from Charlie Cox, and it's going to bring out some spectacular development as well. Foggy was an incredible character that we got to see develop alongside all of the others over the years, and it was extremely sad to see him go. Now, during the battle between Bullseye and Daredevil, which for the most part seemed to be a one-take scene, which is awesome, and you've got to give credit to the incredible craftsmanship and camera work that goes into creating it. But during the battle, Bullseye literally takes extra time out of it to focus on killing innocent people. This just showcases how psychotic Bullseye really is. They even integrated Matt's hearing abilities so that he could hear Foggy's heartbeat the entire time as well. A sort of beautiful but devastating addition that just added to everything else. And another contrast that I really enjoyed was when they were on the roof, as Matt was sobbing and questioning Bullseye on why he did this, Bullseye was just laughing. Again, showcasing that psychotic nature of him so well. After all of the loss and the chaos, Bullseye ends up surviving the fall, likely because of his new spinal upgrades, you could say, and Daredevil throws away the helmet, and in turn, the role of Daredevil, which is where we jump 1 year into the future. Now, before anything else, a small little detail that you can notice in these episodes is that Matt takes Foggy Nelson's prayer card everywhere he goes. Just a little beautiful detail that they added in. Now, after this time jump is where we catch up with some of our other beloved characters from the original series, as Wilson Fisk returns and reunites with his wife, Vanessa, as they plan to work in the city once again. Although their marriage does need a little bit of work. Bullseye gets sentenced to life in prison and shows no remorse. Now, he may have been sentenced, but we all know he will not be staying there. And after the trial, Matt and Karen have a very tough reunion themselves. Clearly, Bullseye did not only kill their friend, but may have killed their relationship, at least for the time being. The little tease from the end of the Echo series actually ends up happening, as it is announced that Wilson Fisk will be running for mayor. This actually brought forth a very interesting reunion between Matt and Wilson Fisk, as they peacefully sat down at a diner and talked about everything. Now, even though in the end they do sort of threaten each other, it was still super cool to see the two just talk to one another as their respective selves. As night fell on election day, it was announced that Fisk had won and will now stand as mayor, as he looks over the city from the rooftops in a sort of whiter background, like a king, or you could say a kingpin, as Matthew stands down in the streets and looks up with a sort of blood red background. Super cool imagery, but also the rivalry is still there, even if it has not emerged yet. This first episode was just absolutely incredible. It was so good to see the return of all of these characters, played by their original actors. A very devastating start, to say the least, but one that also had some incredible action and beautiful displays of dynamics. I also loved the little nods to the comics sprinkled throughout this episode, especially seeing Bullseye just take out a fly with a paperclip. A very small scene, but a very cool one. It's a bold start, but one that really cements itself because of the decisions that were made. They're letting us all know that Daredevil is officially back and he is not going anywhere. This will be a troubled story of struggle and loss, but one where Matt finds himself again, or where he is born again. We have had goofy premieres, slow premieres, decent premieres, and some bad premieres from Marvel Television, at least on Disney+. But this takes the cake, as I believe it is honestly their best premiere to date. Now, this was not just a one episode premiere, as I previously had said, so let's briefly talk about the second episode, which is titled With Interest. This episode focuses really well on delving into the newer storylines that will be built in this series, as we see the introduction of Hector Ayala, aka the White Tiger, who is played by Camar de los Reyes, who unfortunately did pass away, so may he rest in peace. His character ends up getting arrested after getting into a brawl in the subway with two men that were jumping another man. But those two turned out to secretly be cops. So he gets put up for the murder of one of them, and this is obviously corruption, something we can all remember seeing quite a lot in the original series as it was displayed very well there as well. Murdock volunteers to help Hector out with his legal case, even if it's at impossible odds, because of course that is what he stands for. Now, we do also see the White Tiger costume and the magical amulet in this episode as well. In the comics, the amulet is what provides the wearer the powers. Now, in the comics, the amulet is actually created in Kunlun, a mystical and ancient city, being the iconic location where the Iron Fist trains and gains his power. The mantle of the White Tiger has also been passed down a few times, Hector being the first and the original, but it has also been passed down to Ava Ayala. Anyways though, while that is all happening, Wilson Fisk is taking his spot as mayor and trying his hardest to prove to everyone that he is going to do his job, whether they like him or not. It makes you think at first, maybe he has changed after everything that happened, but we all know that is not true, as we do see him return to those Kingpin roots that we all remember so well, the second he has any sort of opposition to his new position as mayor. We do also get a slight little tease to the character of Muse in this episode, although it is not obvious as it's just his character unmasked and as a normal civilian. But from what I have heard, Muse is going to bring some very dark and brutal scenes. One major theme of this episode is Wilson's attempt and dedication to fixing the issues with his wife Vanessa so that he does not lose her, which ends up bringing the both of them to therapy, which is run by the same woman that Matt is now dating. So I am sure that will eventually lead somewhere itself as well. But this also showcases that the only thing that Wilson really cares about is power, himself, but also, of course, his wife. Another major part of this episode is Murdock helping Hector out on his legal case, while also investigating it, showcasing how hard Matt fights for people, even when he is not acting as the costumed superhero. Now, while he's out and about, Matt walks by the church, but he doesn't allow himself to enter the building because of all of his guilt, but he can still listen to their words from outside. This was such a powerful moment for the character. Not only does it reflect on his beliefs, but his development. Throughout the episode, they try finding the man that Hector saved in the subway. And by the end, Matt does find him and saves him just in time as the corrupt cops, who have the Punisher logo tattooed on their arms, try to come and take out the witness. Now, if this tattoo stuff is going to go anywhere, which it very likely will, seeing as Frank Castle will also be making his return, this is a storyline in the comics, and it is another bold move to make, adapting it. Mainly just because of the times we are in. Let's just say Frank Castle is not going to be very happy when he hears that corrupt cops are donning his symbol. Now, as I said previously, this story will clearly be one of struggle, internal and external, for Murdock. And we see that displayed very clearly in the end of the second episode, as he is forced to fight back and defeat the corrupt cops, possibly killing at least one of them by mistake. Not only does this have him sort of returning to Daredevil, something he wanted to put behind him, but he may have also crossed that line again. Another great episode there with the second, and a great introduction into the new storylines that will be adapted. More great acting displays, not as much action, I guess you could say, but when there was action, it was great action. Now, with this 2-episode premiere, I truly do believe this is Marvel's best. We return to those dark and gritty tones almost straight away, and it stays that way throughout both of the episodes. The action scenes live up to the original, minus some wonky CGI moments, but they could end up being even more violent and more gritty than its Netflix counterpart. As always, the acting performances from the original cast are phenomenal. And now, with the new additions to the cast, their performances are also great. But of course, in the end, Charlie Cox as Matt Murdock, aka Daredevil, is the heart and the soul of it all. Seeing the amount of rage and grief he was able to display in just these 2 episodes was mind-blowing. A very, and I mean very, talented actor. All of the visuals reminded me a lot of the original series, as did the action itself. Seeing the flexibility and the acrobatic style from Daredevil, practically ripped straight out of the comics, is very refreshing and a fine addition. The nostalgia really hits with this one, and it's not that sort of forced nostalgia either. It's a good nostalgic feeling. Seeing all of these characters return after 7 years is amazing, but also having them built into a brand new story is perfect. And if I am being completely honest, I don't even think I had any issues with these 2 episodes whatsoever. Now, obviously, nothing is perfect, but I believe that these 2 episodes were as perfect as they could have been and needed to be. Personally, I was a little afraid that they would MCUify Daredevil, but that is not the case at all. But that is besides the point. I believe that is all I have to say in depth about the premiere, and why I believe it is Marvel's best. Overall, the first 2 episodes for Daredevil Born Again were an amazing watch, super action-packed, and a great introduction to a new story for Daredevil, and the rest of these characters around him. And most importantly, a very bold and emotional beginning to it all. We are definitely going to miss seeing Foggy and his dynamic with Matt, but I am excited to see where this all brings us in the end. I can also say that with confidence, after all those promises with previous shows of Marvel saying, hey, we promise this is going to be dark, violent, and gritty, this is actually the first show that lives up to those promises. Anyways though, I believe I would give the first 2 episodes a 9.5 out of 10. This series already feels like a must watch. But yeah, that about does it for these first 2 episodes of Daredevil Born Again, from me at least. If you have seen the episodes yourself as well, make sure to leave your thoughts on them down below. We typically do in-depth breakdowns for shows, but since this was a double episode premiere and because I enjoyed it so much, I kind of wanted to do something a little more different. But definitely expect those more in-depth breakdowns starting next episode and next week for sure. With that being said, thank you all for watching. If you enjoyed the video, feel free to leave a like on it, and we will see you all the next time that we go through and explore the nerdy multiverse.